Let's talk about sad beige moms. Sad beige moms are essentially the modern equivalent of trad wives, where they have a very natural, clean aesthetic and also looks like they were possibly coerced into having children. Though they've been around for well over a year, I don't think I've met a single person who hasn't asked, "What?" when I mentioned a sad beige mom. So in this video, I'm going to go over pretty much everything there is to know about them and a couple theories as to why they are the way that they are. I would like to preface this video by saying though that there's a lot of different parenting styles and there's a lot of different ways to parent children. A lot of it is a matter of moderation. And what's mainly shown in this video is the lack of moderation, where it is very extreme beige. There's a common ground that can be met between neutrals and bright colors, and there is very little middle ground found here at all. The idea of being a beige mom started out as noble enough. A lot of gender neutral colors for their kids to explore who they wanted to be better and not be forced into a box of boy or girl right off the bat. And it promoted a lot of healthier, more natural kind of growing environments for the kids. So maybe using less dangerous paint. It started out as more of a, hey, we want a healthy environment for our infants to be able to grow into their interests. And then, like most things, it gradually devolved into, I'm going to spray paint this Fisher-Price Christmas tree and then give it to my toddler, who is most definitely going to put the spray paint in their mouth. So that's kind of what we're dealing with here.
Go ahead and call me crazy or a sad beige mom for what I'm about to do. Today, I'm giving this step 2, my first Christmas tree, a total makeover. I'm leaning into my inner Pinterest mom with the vision to neutralize the tree, and I can already hear you thinking that I'm gonna ruin my toddler's Christmas by painting over these colors. Let's be real, my toddler's favorite toys are brown cardboard boxes and clear plastic water bottles.
The mention of brown cardboard boxes, this is actually something that is used multiple times by multiple beige moms to justify the usage of a more brown color palette. The same concept is applied to sticks, where, you know, stick is brown, kid likes stick, therefore kid likes brown. When it's more of with the box and the stick idea, there is an infinite amount of possibilities. Sticks and boxes to kids are essentially whatever the kid wants it to be, no matter what color it is. If they pick up a stick and it looks like a sword, let me tell you what, that stick is a sword. If they get a box that they can fit in, and it's got the little flaps on the side, guess what? That box, that's a spaceship now. Doesn't matter that it's brown. It matters that anything can be done with it, and that kind of invalidates the justification of brown on that aspect just because it's a cardboard box or a stick.
Crazy like me and end up doing this DIY, make sure to get the kind that specifically says that bonds to plastic.
Note how she says get the kind that bonds to plastic and not the kind that's safe for a toddler.
Here's how the DIY ornaments turned out, guys. Honestly, I love them. They are definitely giving organic, modern vibes. I might even go back in to add some little velvet ribbon bows along the hooks. I do need you guys' help. Should I paint the train or leave it as is? I couldn't decide, but here's how the tree turned out and what it looks like in our space. I absolutely love it, but let me know what you think.
Let's take a moment to talk about organic modern vibes. We need to talk about that a little bit more because that is something that has been a huge part of the beige mom aesthetic. It started off when Kim Kardashian, however many months ago, years ago at this point, posted an Instagram video showing her house for the holidays, and it was impeccably clean, impeccably white, and tan. Their tree was tan for whatever reason, I don't know. And just very clean. It was something that mothers strive for yet cannot have because they have children and children love to make messes, but Kim Kardashian with her kids managed to make it work. And so this essentially romanticized the idea of minimalistic illusion of wealth. This is also tied into the idea of quiet luxury, which is pretty much the idea of getting very minimalistic clothing or accessories or decorations, but then they end up being really high quality or super expensive or name brand. And this is definitely something that people like Kim Kardashian have applied to everyday life. For instance, she partnered with Beats to have a beige palette line of headphones, did the same thing with the skincare line, has a very minimalistic looking house, and because of that, minimalism and quiet luxury have been associated with this sense of wealth and superiority. I think the bit that really gets moms kind of trapped in this is the cleanliness of it. It is so difficult to have a particularly clean house with kids. And that's something that a lot of moms are constantly striving to have, yet struggle to achieve. So when they see other moms with their very clean and minimalistic environments, it makes them want to be able to replicate that and almost create the same Instagrammable feel to their everyday life. Because of this combination of aesthetics, being a beige mom with a very clean and minimalistic environment is almost seen as being a superior parent. It gives the idea of control of the environment, which is seen as a trait of a superior person. On Reddit, people seem to be a pretty big fan of the idea of, if you're trying to create this constantly Instagrammable environment that's involving your kids, maybe just don't try and make your kids Instagrammable because they're kids. That's a great option. Because then you can have your own Instagrammable, beige, minimalistic environment, and the kids can have their environment that's however chaotic as it has to be. Some kids prefer things like drawing versus the really loud toys versus playing in a ball pit for a gazillion hours versus a cardboard box versus a mud pit. There's so many options, and they don't need to use all of them, but we need some variety and giving them the space to be messy. Arguably, the biggest issue with this, though, is that there's really no sense of moderation, which Funky Frogbait did a fantastic job of pointing out in their video about sad beige moms, and I feel like this segment just kind of perfectly summarizes how insane it's gotten.
Kids can't even have color on their birthday? Who is this party for? The inmates of Arkham Asylum?
Look at this. Perfect.
Oh my god. Holy sh! I thought I went colorblind for a second. It's like the first 30 minutes of The Wizard of Oz. The old one with the asbestos snow, to be clear. There's no place like home. Wrong. Thousands of middle-aged women decorate their house like this now.
Happy medium between sad beige mom and not sad beige mom, and I'm just gonna show you why, so let's go.
Okay, first up there's this. And then there's this. It is beautiful. Now what in the hell is that? A Vulcan's first abacus? Children from the Victorian era would be like, that looks depressing, I don't want to play with it, and then go back to licking the lead paint off their toys. Then there's this, we all have a good ball pit, and then there's this. Yeah, no, the light blue toy covered with the happy smiling faces of animal friends is so ugly. Bring in the cylinder! You've heard of ball pits, now get ready for the pit of despair!
So it's gotten bad. Why are moms doing this? Like, it seems to be pretty extreme lengths to go to, because a lot of this stuff is also somehow more expensive. There was like a $98 onesie on this one website that this person on TikTok called Official Sad Beige Mom, I think, where she just makes fun of beige moms. The prices on those things are absolutely insane. Ashley Embers justified some of the beige mom thought process by saying that some moms feel too overwhelmed by all the bright colors and patterns, which is fair when you have every single color in the rainbow on every single toy, and every single toy is in a spot for the child, or, you know, throughout the whole house. That can be a lot. especially for people who don't prefer that extreme amounts of color. However, that doesn't justify the complete lack of color in the kids' environment. A second part of this argument is that kids will be exposed to color when they leave the house or eat foods like berries and fruit, to which I say, what are they gonna do when they leave the house and suddenly see 20 new colors and don't know how to process it? Because babies should start seeing primary colors at about 3 months old. Realistically, how much is a 3-month-old leaving the house? How much is a 5-month-old leaving the house? I'm not a parent, but from my understanding, newborn babies and just babies in general are kind of easier to manage at home, and going out in public with them can be hard sometimes, especially if it's just one parent taking care of the baby and they need to do things like run errands. So I'm concerned about the long-term negatives from that, where the color deficit essentially turns into a child, just like the parent, who is absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of color suddenly present in their world when they start doing things like going to kindergarten or school. Then again, I also wouldn't be surprised if the vast majority of these kids were homeschooled, so we'll get a part 2 of this video in 5 years to see how they're developing. There is a complete opposite of that possibility, though, which Funky Frog Bait posted on TikTok.
Hi, welcome in. Yeah, you can put your shoes anywhere. Just throw them and see where they land. Can you keep your coat on? Actually, that shirt you're wearing is a shade of brown that brings back memories. As you can see, all of my childhood finger paintings are hung up on the walls. Mom always kept them in the basement because they didn't match her aesthetic. But look at you now, framed, honored as masterpieces. Would you like to see the kitchen? Yeah, so the theme that we're kind of going for is a bit of an avant-garde rainbow circus parade. Now this is the color room, where I attempt to catch up on all of the years of color I was denied as a child. Oh, here are these sunglasses. Some people find it a bit intense. The whole spectrum of color can be viewed from any point in this room, but it's still not enough. Nothing is ever enough.
Both are not fantastic outcomes. And I think especially since this trend has been more of a thing since late 2022 and 2023, we aren't really gonna see any potential negative effects of this until a few more years down the road, when the kids get a bit older and start generating more of their own opinions about things. Maybe they'll be severely traumatized, maybe they won't even remember. Maybe half of them will be colorblind, we really don't know. As I'm sure most of you know, making fun of someone for their preferences like color or way of dress or atmosphere that they prefer isn't exactly the best thing to do, and a lot of beige moms have been bringing that up a bit because they have really been targeted quite a lot by the internet, and some of them play into it. Some of them really feel like they're absolutely justified in what they're doing and can become quite defensive about it. But a lot of other moms are also incredibly concerned because it basically gets to the point where it becomes less about the cleanliness and the gender neutrality and seems to become more about control.
Hate moms who make their kids adhere to their aesthetic, okay? And what I mean by that is wrapping their kids' gifts in all moody, neutral wrapping paper, making sure that they don't have any colored toys in the house because it disrupts the
that's horrible
vibe of the living room. It makes me literally sick to my stomach when I see a kid who's not allowed to wear like My Little Pony on their shirt because it's like, it's not like, what are you doing?
I couldn't agree more.
It makes me so upset. Like, imagine, could you imagine, like, think about how exciting color was to you as a kid, like how fun it was to walk into a classroom and like everything's so bright and colorful and stuff. Could you imagine like how you would feel as a child walking around and everything?
And you just have like nude velvet ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is horrible, terrible.
And all because your mom wants to post you on her Instagram.
There is absolutely a mom labeling trend that is getting a little bit annoying, where we're just kind of like, we don't like to mislabel people, but then we also proceed to put a label on everyone, which, yeah, there's definitely stereotypes that some people fit, but it's getting to be a lot. Especially when a lot of moms are just trying their best to maintain their own sense of self and personality versus giving it all up for the kid. Because at the end of the day, they're still people with their own mind and personalities. They can't make all of that their babies, but also that shouldn't be done vice versa, where the whole baby's mind and personality and desires are made the mother's or the father's. We're inclusive up in here. Overall, this article from Parents touches on a lot more of what's already been mentioned, though, such as the removing of overstimulation, toxins, vibrant colors, and making sure that everything is kind of Instagram worthy at all time, not wanting to appear poor. It's a brief yet pretty good article. It also mentions the idea of Redditors, so I actually decided to go to Reddit and see what the kind of science behind colors and children were. And one of the better comments I found was from a graphic designer that was posted 2 years ago, where having an overabundance can be overstimulating. Think about, say, a Where's Waldo poster, for example. But that the existence of contrasting and complementary colors needs to be taken into account, especially since that is related to color psychology and the development of children. In this article by Toll Brothers, they go over color and brain growth, mentioning that by 3 months, a baby starts to see color and the addition of brighter primary colors becomes important for their development, and that between 5 and 8 months, a baby's color vision is fully developed, which does make it easier for them to process different hues, so perhaps that would be a good idea to bring back in a bit more of the beige, color-neutral aesthetic. But contrasting colors are essential, especially in the beginning, to aid in visual development. So, though babies don't fully recognize color until they're 5 months old, they still need that variety, especially, as frustrating as it might be, the kind of garish contrasting palettes to fully be able to make sense of colors. And then this article by The Bump is absolutely fantastic because it really dives into how colors affect babies' development, especially the cognitive and visual. And there is a linked article about baby vision development timeline, such as at 4 to 6 months, they're going to start figuring out color a bit more. 7 to 9 months, it continues to develop vision-wise. And then at 10 to 12 months, babies can start to see clearly and potentially even as well as adults. So though early on it's too weak to distinguish between colors, they do need that transition from neutral to colored palettes so that their vision can develop properly. The author in the first article states that sharply contrasting colors, shapes, and patterns encourage babies' development in many ways. First, they're easier for babies to see and process, and they can help boost the development of the optic nerves and encourage babies' cognitive development without overstimulating them. At 6 months old, they typically start to see the full color spectrum. So if you are a parent or looking to be a parent in the future, though it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have a bit more of a muted color palette in the beginning, as the baby gets older, it's going to start needing more and more colors. There is that essential time period of, I think, like 3 to 5 months where there are going to need to be a lot of the bright colors, simply so that the contrast of the primaries can really be figured out by the baby's eyes and brain. But then once they start to get more towards that 6-month mark and can see different hues and tones, then working in a bit more of the neutral colors can be beneficial, absolutely. Because, yeah, kids can be overwhelmed, and in environments where there's a lot of different colors all at once, that can be distracting. But that also doesn't mean that all color needs to be removed. And for the parents who do want to have their more color neutral household, having a playroom would be a fantastic idea so that all of the kids' colored toys can be in there. And it's like, hey, this is your play area. This is where your toys are. We do this so that we can keep the rest of the house clean. And then that just kind of goes into parenting concepts of, you know, once you're done with a toy, you put it away to help prevent messes, which is another irk that seems to go along with a lot of the beige moms. One of the points that I really liked about having things like beige walls, white walls, gray walls, whatever it may be, is that it allowed to let whatever was put on the walls to pop, which I 100% agree with. I have white and tan walls, wooden flooring, wooden furniture. My PC is RGB. There's LED lights around my room that can be switched to whatever color of the rainbow I so desire. So it's things like that where, yes, there's a lot of neutral colors, but there's also just a lot of personal taste and touches added to it that brings in color and that brings in interest. And there seems to be a lack of that bringing together in both groups, where it seems to be very extreme one end of, you know, color, that could absolutely create overstimulation. And then there's the absolute void that children are just sat down and just stare at a wall for 5 hours as their afternoon playtime. So overall, is the beige mom aesthetic the worst? No. Especially while the babies are newborns and literal tiny babies and haven't really developed their color range yet. But once they hit that 3-month-old developmental point where they need to start having more colors introduced so that their eyes and brains can develop properly, that's when the bit of personal preference by the parents will have to be let go a little bit, simply for the sake of the baby. A few months later, yeah, you can work back in some more of the color neutral palettes. And yeah, having a separate playroom for the kids to keep the rest of the house from being too vibrant or too messy or too chaotic could also be a very good idea. But to continue imposing that idea on the child of having the clean, pristine household with no color, having colorless clothes, colorless hair, colorless accessories, and not letting them explore their own interests once they get old enough to do that, that's gonna become problematic for them in the future. They are going to carry some kind of trauma from the lack of expression with them, and quite possibly become the exact opposite of what the parents wanted them to grow up to be like. So if you want your kids to not hate you when they grow up, or feel traumatized, then maybe try and find a common ground and have a bit of flexibility between both the extreme overstimulation of every single color of the rainbow all the time and the void color neutral palettes. At the end of the day, I can't judge too much. Over 50% of my t-shirts are all black. But then color accents, there's common ground. T-shirts. Just let your kids be kids, I guess. And if you want to help keep them safe from toxins, then don't spray paint the toys you're giving your baby that they'll probably put in their mouths. Real life safety. Bye.